I went to a Catholic primary school. I was very knowledgeable in Catholicism. I actually got high grades. Even into high school, I continued Bible studies. As I got into my teenage years, I developed anxiety. I used to have a fear of death. Also, I began to doubt Catholicism. I began to doubt Christianity altogether. At the age of 16, I started questioning the Bible and started questioning Catholicism and questioning the Christianity altogether. One of the things that I questioned was the Trinity, of course, was another one. I had a discussion with a priest, and he said, we believe that we're all born with sin. The reason is because Adam and Eve sinned, so we are all born with sin, and the only way to rid yourself from the sin is to be baptized. And, of course, that Jesus Christ died for the sins of the world because the spiritual war was going on, that a man had to come and die without sin to open up the gates of heaven. Now, obviously, as Muslims, we know that this is blasphemous, this is wrong, this is abhorrent. Christians believe that sex is a sin, even in marriage. SubhanAllah, like, what's wrong with this? You know, how can sex be a sin? You know, it's
natural.
It's a natural thing. Animals do it. We do it to reproduce.
That's how we continue. It's true.
This is why Catholic priests do not marry and nuns do not marry, because they believe that sex is a sin, and that sex is a sin even in marriage. So that way, to have a child is a sin, but Jesus already died for that. SubhanAllah. All I knew about Islam, from what I saw on the television, from Lawrence of Arabia, Yasser Arafat, and Muammar Gaddafi. That's all I knew from Islam. SubhanAllah. The Muslims I met in high school weren't practicing, and they didn't know anything about their religion.
Yeah.
They drank alcohol and all that sort of things. One thing that didn't sit right with me was, in the Bible, apart from all the contradictions, which I'm not going to name, because there's so many, the Bible describes as Abraham, who was a prophet of Allah, as a righteous man. And I admired Abraham before I embraced Islam. He was considered by God as righteous. And it didn't sit right with me, because the Christians believe that everybody went to hell until Jesus died on the cross. It did not sit right with me that all these Noah and Noah and Ibrahim alayhi salam and all the prophets, they all went to hell. It just did not sit right with me when they worshipped God and they preached the word of Islam, you know, or from what I knew as a Christian, they preached the word of God. It didn't sit right with me. I could not grasp that. And SubhanAllah, a priest would tell you it's not meant to make sense, you just need to believe in it. So, at the age of 17, 18, I stopped praying and stopped being a Christian, and did what most young men do. Went out, partied, you know, got drunk, women, whatever, cars. And as I went through these years, I found that I was living life without a purpose. I did not have a purpose in life, SubhanAllah. At the age of about 21 years old, I met a Muslim guy who had a beard. And we started talking. He asked me what I believed in, and I said I do not know what I believe in, because I grew up as a Christian, but I don't believe in any of it. And he started explaining Islam to me and explaining how Muslims believe in the prophets of God. And I was very surprised. So I said, tell me more about this religion, you know. And I said, look, you know, like from what I see of Islam is what I see on television. He goes, trust me, brother, what you see in the media is lies. And a very valid point, when somebody's on the right path, and if you ever look in the history of all the prophets, when they came to preach the word of God, they were criticized, they were called liars, they were called a lot of things. So I went with this brother to an Islamic center, and I listened to a couple of the lectures. They were very nice, and I asked for a copy of the Quran. I never read the Quran before, and they gave me a copy. And after I took the Quran at home, and one of the first surahs I read, and it actually happens to be my favorite surah. One of the surahs I read was Surah Al-Mussalat. And when you read the Quran, you cannot find any contradictions in the Quran. Everything makes sense. In the Bible, there's many contradictions and things just not make sense, and it's like it talks in riddles. Because the Bible, of course, people will vigorously deny this, has been man-made and was put together by man. And I went back to the Islamic Center and I said, what must I do to become a Muslim? They said, it's easy, just...
Take your shahada.
So I took the shahada, alhamdulillah.
Takbir.